Love is Blind Season 3 has officially come to a close, so we have got a lot to talk about and update you on where the couples are now. Hey everybody, it's your host Blakely McHugh, and welcome back to another shared news update. Before we get into Season 3, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss any of our future videos. I have got Zachary Reality and Kayla Thompson here with me breaking down the season, but I gotta know, what are your 3 words to describe the season? Zach, take it away.
Let's go with messy, love, because we did get some happy couples, and I would say confused. There was the clementine scene, which I'm sure we're going to get into. Were they clementines? Were they oranges? I don't know.
Were the cuties?
I still don't know. The cuties. Yeah, that is the biggest confusion. And I think after seeing Alexa's post saying that it was irrelevant to even put that in there, I mean, the whole internet went crazy over it. So I'm just excited to hear what you guys thought about that, because it left me.
We have a lot to discuss.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Is there going to be an after the altar? Like, what's going on?
Kayla, your
very
3?
true. I'm trying to not make all 3 of mine negative. I'll start with toxic.
Girl, if that's what you got.
Toxic.
Listen, we've toxic. I would say self-centered, and I would say
Spill the tea.
polarizing. Oh, I will.
Wow.
Okay.
Kayla, those were some great word choices. I
Kayla
agree with
coming
you.
in.
Okay, girl.
I
The
read
receipts on this
sometimes.
Friday.
All right. Well, we obviously, you can tell by our feelings, by the words that were chosen, that there is a lot to discuss. Let's start off with our successful couples, though, because there's a little less to discuss about them, and then we'll really get into it. But gotta start with the successes, right? So Alexa and Brennan, they were kind of an odd couple to begin with. Alexa is Jewish. She comes from a very affluent family, has very high standards. Great for her. Nothing wrong with that. Brennan is a country boy. He likes the cowboy boots. They just didn't seem like they were going to be a match
From
made
the
in
same
heaven.
world.
Exactly. From the same world. So, but things working out great for them. They said, I do at the altar. They've moved in together. They have a dog together. Their families apparently have spent a lot of time together. They say the biggest challenge for them right now is selecting where to spend their holidays, kind of which family to do which holiday at. And Alexa said they are living their best life. Kayla, did you think that these two would say their I do's and make it to the altar?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, when
The
you
whole
saw
time?
the entire time, Blakely, when you saw the comparison between everyone else and them, you're like, oh, they're the ones that are gonna be married compared to everyone. They have to have. There's always at least 2 marriages, and so that was a total lock. I mean, their issues were like just barely any issue. Like even what we're saying now, oh, their biggest issue is like finding a place to, finding what to do for the holidays.
Struggle.
It's like that's the only struggle they have. Like they're such a good kind of, and I know throughout the season that we were calling them opposites attract kind of couple, but I think they're kind of like, they kind of just balance each other
They're
so
a balance.
well. They're such a great balance. I think Brennan is just so, like he's just so loving and kind of chill and really like more quiet, I guess maybe. And Alexa's big personality, like sassy. Like I think they're such a cool match. So I know people were talking online about like Brennan's Instagram captions. It was like clearly Alexa was writing his captions for him because it was like rap song lyrics and like sassy kind of like social media one-liners. It was perfect. I love them together. I think they're so cute.
Have you seen the captions, Zach?
I haven't even seen the captions, but I did just follow Alexa on Instagram yesterday. I don't follow Brennan, but maybe I need to. I mean, I think we also need to remember, and Alexa said in one of her Instagram captions, actually, I've seen some captions that, she's been waiting to post certain pictures for a year and a half. So regardless of what happened on the show, they've been married for a year and a half because that's how long Love is Blind films in advance. So my heart is like, I'm here for them. Like, I love them. I think they're a solid couple. I think Alexa was the queen of the show. She was so sassy. She was so confident. Even at the reunion,
Telling it how
her
it
makeup,
is.
her hair, She just is that girl. It's very Lauren and Cam vibes, like from season 1, where I actually feel
Very
like they are
much.
gonna last because we have no couples from season 2, which was the most dramatic season. So this season was pretty decent, and I'm glad that we can put our all into them. And what's her name? Nick Lachey's wife Vanessa. She said
Vanessa.
that they want their first Love Is Blind baby, and I actually think Alexa and Brennan are going to be the first. My heart
Might be
is
the
set
ones
on
to
them.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just gonna read you really quick. So on this photo, I'll just show everybody, you know, his black suit he wore to the reunion. He
Yes,
wrote,
pull the
hat is
receipt.
matte black, got the boots that's black to match. And
Well,
then
maybe
this one,
the one where he's like-
she's been rubbing off.
Yeah.
let's see which one. There was another one that honestly was kind of cringy.
some of them
I'm
are
gonna have to
really
scroll for a
cringy.
while. I can't find it, but this one says he's just drinking some water. You know, he's at a table. It says, I know you used to slow CDs and Dom P's, but tonight it's 8 tracks and 6 packs while I hit that.
Exactly. Brennan
Well, when
would
you're
not
around
come up with that
people,
himself.
Unless she's rubbed off on him.
That's
We
so
need
true.
to put
Either
that to
way,
rest immediately. Okay, well, happy for them. Let's move
Yes.
on to the next couple that said their I do's, Colleen and Matt, and they were very polarizing, using the word that you said, Kayla. Throughout the entire show, they had a lot of blow-up fights. Even like their last dinner that we saw them at, Colleen said she didn't know if love was enough to say I do and get married, but they both said their I do's at the altar. At this point, they're sharing that they're really going, you know, they got married in an unconventional way, so they're going to live their married life, at least in the moment, unconventionally, so they have not moved in together. At the reunion, they did say that it was because of their lease agreements, which is kind of what's kept them apart, but they say that they are happy and going strong. I was let down by the reunion when it came to Colleen and Matt. I felt like there was a lot to talk about in terms of Matt's outbursts, how they communicated, and we didn't get any of that. Was anybody else let down by that?
yeah, for sure.
It seemed like Colleen was a little shaken up. I think a lot of fans noticed that. There was just like a little bit more to the story than what we were getting. The whole lease thing is interesting to me just because, as I mentioned, the show
It's
filmed a
been
year
so
and a half
long.
ago. So it's like,
Mhm.
what lease were you in? Like, is it a year lease, 2-year leases? I don't know. I live by myself. I don't do roommates. So they're doing things differently. But I mean, I think the good news is that they are moving in together in 2 months and they actually had a definitive answer. And I think a lot of times when we see couples on reality TV say, oh, we're figuring it out, we'll move in together soon, we're taking our time. Like, it seems like Colleen and Matt actually have a plan. So while I don't have as much, I wouldn't bet as much that they would last forever as I would with Alexa and Brennan. I still have hope for them. And I think that they're happy and content. And I think it's probably hard to just like relive these issues when so much time has passed since filming.
Yeah.
Mm.
Kayla, what did you
Yeah.
think about them not talking about Matt's problems?
Yeah, I was a little, I mean, y'all, let me just say
Spill
this
the
now.
tea.
I think
Spill the
that,
tea, Kayla.
I think that Nick and Vanessa just aren't good hosts. I don't think they know
They're
how
not.
to I think they just know how
Shake
to
will
do what
agree
they're
with you.
told. And that's it. I think they don't do well at their job. I think that they should read the room. They should know how to read in between the lines, know how to ask the right questions and get the answers that fans want to know from watching the season. And I think that Matt could have been challenged a little bit because although he did address hey, I reacted strongly and not in the best way, but he gave an excuse for why. And I think that, yes, it's understandable, his triggers and his trauma that he dealt with in his past relationship, but it's really not an excuse to be reactionary because it's are you gonna continue being that way? If you have an excuse, then you're just gonna flip the script on me. It's I just hope that Colleen continues to kind of keep her antenna up with that, challenge Matt with that, because I do think Matt really loves Colleen, but I think he just needs to make sure he's going to therapy and talking through that instead of just, blowing up when something pretty minute and small might happen, which is what we saw in the season.
Yeah.
So as long as Colleen keeps on it, I think they'll be okay. But yeah, I was a little disappointed by that.
I want to choose my words carefully, but you could go online and all you have to do is type in Colleen and on Twitter and you'll see what everybody is saying. But some of his reactions were very concerning, and I would say even the way that he spoke to Colleen, when they were at that dinner and he was trying to ask her what she really felt. And he's like, say it, say it, say it. Like, I get you want her to say how she feels and be honest, but it was just so aggressive is the word that I want to use to describe it. That it really was, it turned a lot of people's heads in the way that he behaved. On top of that, a lot of people are talking about Colleen's body language at the reunion. I'm curious if either of you picked up on that as well, because it looked like, he and this could be a way of showing love and affection in the way that he was like holding her and touching her, but it also came across as, to a lot of people, almost like controlling and trying to control her. And it was interesting for me because she's like, we're so happy, but when she said we're so happy, she goes, we're so happy. Like, when you're happy, you usually
and that's
look
kind of
happy.
what I said. That's when I said, like, she looked like a deer in headlights many times throughout the reunion. So I definitely do think there is more to the story. But I also feel like they have this plan to move in together. They're still together a year and a half since filming. So I think that they probably just didn't want to open up as much about their struggles and just kind of, be polite and like, this is where we're at now. Because there was so much drama with the other couples that they didn't really have to share the intimate details. But it seems like they're committed, but they still need to work through things.
And I think I'll add one other perspective. It could be also that they might have sat this cast down and made them watch multiple episodes of their season right before they filmed this. So she could have been coming off of like watching how she was on the show, watching watching it back between her and Cole, and just be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that one situation, or just kind of be like, a little shell shocked from watching that all at once. But I agree with Zach. I think, it's been a year and a half. Let's just hope that they have walked through that Matt has done the work to kind of, stay on top of that and get through that in a healthy way. Yeah.
So let's move on to, I think, a couple that a lot of people have really kind of turned their head on. So SK and Raven, we obviously know that they did, well, not they, but SK did not say I do at the altar, but they did end up coming back together after the wedding, and they are together. Now, SK did move to California for graduate school a few days after the wedding, but he had admitted that he did reach out to Raven afterwards. Now they're doing the long distance thing. I've got to be honest, I really doubted them in the beginning. I think because I was doubtful of Raven. When she was doing the jumping jacks with Bartice in the pods, it just felt like she wasn't really connected. She was really keeping SK at an arm's distance. And I was like, SK is like, a P-Jom. Like, we should be pulling him in. We should be pulling him in. What are you doing, girl? And then, they came around. I just love them so much. Kayla, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Blakely, I gotta say it. First off, I love me a brown couple. I'm so glad they made it on the other side. It was a little, rough because he said no, but I'm glad that they got back together. They kind of reconciled. I think, from what SK was saying, it was understandable to say, hey, I love her, I want a relationship with her, but today is not the day for us to be married. I thought that made sense. I think it's just the aspect of the show makes it really weird because I guess the producers make them wait until the wedding day to, officially decide. But yeah, I think their journey was really interesting to watch because I agree. At first I was like, oh, Raven is not feeling it. But, she was warming up to him and she was initiating a lot of the physical touch. And I think it's been cool to see just they are another great balance where, SK is more, hey, physical and just kind of lovey-dovey. And I think that brings out more the sensitive side of Raven. And it seems like they actually really connect, and they had more of a slow burn. But yeah, sometimes those have more longevity. So I have a lot of hope for them.
I love Raven. I think she is such a cool girl. She clearly just stays so true to herself. And I like SK too. I think that he is a little bit more soft-spoken and reserved, but I liked that he stayed true to himself all the way through the end. And it seems like they're working things out. They shared that they're back together, they're dating. So it's nice that they're taking their time with things. We keep on saying it's been a year and a half since filming, but the fact that they're even dating now shows that they've grown in their relationship. And I'm looking forward to listening to some podcasts and seeing more updates, because this reunion was definitely there was a lot to get through. So, I ship them. I think that they're awesome.
What's crazy is he finishes his graduate school next year. So if they've been dating this whole time, he's going to be back in Texas. What does that mean for their relationship? And also, you guys, my favorite part of the reunion came from SK. Can you guys guess what it was?
Was it when he said, I like, my girl's a baddie or something like that?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I love that
I just
moment.
love that because he was like, obviously guys are going to come after my girl. She a baddie. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
SK, tell it how it is.
I love it.
Love a confident man who is like
Yes.
secure in himself and his relationship. SK. Okay,
SK.
we need to switch gears to the not so successful couples. I think we're really gonna have a lot to chat about now. Let's start off with Nancy and Bartise. I was expecting a little bit more heat to come towards Bartise. Just because I feel like he was saying the entire time throughout the show or throughout the season that he was not attracted to Nancy. Like the entire time. It wasn't just a one-off like Cole. It was the entire time. I mean, think about even when they were living together, Matt was having his blow up about when Colleen was out at the club and Bartise is like, I wish I had your problem. Basically saying, I wish I had a girl hot enough that I could be upset up that she's at the club. I'm like, okay,
Right.
Bartise. But where they're at now, Bartise says they're friends. Nancy says they're not, but they're cordial. She did call him out a little bit at the reunion, saying that he was romantically involved with other women just like days after their wedding. And Bartise during the reunion is still holding strong that he was in love with Nancy and that he did not know he was going to say no until he was at that altar in that very moment. And I don't know about you guys, but Bartise knew when Nancy sent him the gift of all the little artifacts that detailed their wedding, and he's looking at himself in the mirror, and what's going through his mind is like, shoot, I'm about to tell this girl no, and I'm feeling really bad about it, and I know I'm gonna say no, but he's like, I don't know. I'm like, Bartise, you know what you're doing. Somebody else take it away. I could rant forever.
Gosh. Well, I think Bartise was never going to say yes. And I think like his brother knew, Nancy's brother knew that. I mean, we needed Nancy's mom and brother at the reunion because that was my favorite wedding to watch on TV because the drama was so deep. So I was a little surprised, like you were, Blakely, that the heat wasn't there as much. And I think I'm going to bring it back to this again. It's been a year and a half. People are over it. Nancy's moved on. She said she loved Bartise. She really did love him. And Bartise was like, I know you did. That's what he said at the reunion. And I'm like, yeah, she always loved him, but I don't think that he truly ever loved her. And I don't think it's like that big of a deal that he was with another girl a few days after, just because he probably was emotionally checked out of the relationship for a minute, but it's a TV show. They have to go through with the process, show up to the wedding. He did it in private. It's what no one expected. He didn't expect someone to record them at this club. Like, this happens to reality stars all the time, where it's like their business just gets put out there when they're out in public just because they're public figures. It's not like he was trying to intentionally flaunt this girl in Nancy's face. So either way, I'm glad that they've come to some sort of resolution. I feel like Bartise took some responsibility. Maybe he could have took a little bit more, but I really like Nancy. So I'm rooting for her to find love in the future.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to be messy, but at the beginning of the pods, I know Andrew was saying some wild stories and he had eye drops, but I was kind of wanting Nancy and Andrew to be together and not Bartise, just because I felt like I could see Bartise's immaturity from a mile away. I could see this is why I said at the beginning of this video, self-centered. It was for Bartise. He is probably the most selfish person I've ever seen on this entire show.
Context.
Like, he is so only thinking about himself, even in his brutal honesty. It's always, he did not think about how Nancy would feel when he was as brutally honest. And he only thinks about himself. And I think he's so checked out of like how anyone else will feel. But yeah, I think the other thing about just Bartise and his no, like I feel like he knew days before, like Blakely was saying, like he knew from the gift that he got from Nancy. And I think we also have to keep in mind that like production is involved. Just when we watch like the weddings happening, there's always one person that goes first, and they usually say yes. And then the second person is the person who says no. So I think that the producers, in my theory, is that they know what the answer is going to be before they film that wedding scene. So this whole I didn't know till it came out of my mouth is such BS. Like, why would you do that anyway? Like, that's stupid to do anyway. Like, you should think about what you're going to say before you start filming it. But I think, I don't know, Bartise, I will give him credit that I think he can own up to some of his faults. I think it's just harder for him to see like fully his issues because he's so big-headed, in my opinion. I think he really needs to humble himself even further. But
Agreed.
I think that it was also good to see her family like stand up for her, because Nancy's just so nice. And I'm like, he does not deserve all this grace and like niceness and loyalty from this girl. So it was cool to see like, her Latin family just like being like, no, like you're not about to do this to her in front of everybody and embarrass her, and just stand up for her. I think that was good for the viewers to see. But yeah,
and
Bartise.
Speaking of that moment, Kayla, when the family jumps into Bartise, first off, he's still calling Nancy his fiance. And Bartise is like, this is a conversation for me and my fiance. Okay, you do not, if you're still considering this person your fiance, you do not talk to your fiance's family like that. Then he's telling the brother, you need to get the F out. You need to get the F out. You don't talk to your first off, you don't talk to anybody's family like that. Second off, you don't talk to your fiancés that you want to marry. Well, he clearly didn't want to marry into her family, but that you're considering marrying into her family. You don't speak like that. I was like so
just
thrown off.
Out of respect. Yeah.
Yeah. And then on top of that, to also harp on your point where you said his brutal honesty, he in that bed when he is like, he said to her, are you okay with my, like, that kind of honesty? Nobody's okay with that kind of honesty, Bartise. That's not being honest. That's just being rude. That's just not being nice. Nobody is okay with you being that honest. You keep that thought to yourself. That Raven was a smoke show and her body and that slim tight dress and no, you just, no.
Tell the boys. Don't tell Nancy, the girl that you're sleeping with.
Exactly. Like it was like, wow, this guy thinks he's that hot to just be like that. It's like nobody's that hot to be that rude.
And
like,
my guy's little like poodle ponytail at the reunion is in no position to be talking about women like that.
Child, don't even get me started on his hair.
What was all the names people had for him? Like Barnacle,
Bartholomew,
Batista, all of it. I loved how Lizzo weighed in on TikTok. You guys know Lizzo, the pop star.
Oh.
She's so funny. I feel like her thoughts just really spoke for a lot of us.
I agree. Her thoughts were everything. Okay, so let's get to who I think was the messiest, most toxic couple of the group, Cole and Zena. So just to break things down, clearly they are not together. Probably the least successful couple. While they're at the altar, first off, Zena starts off with the prayer saying, thank you for bringing Cole into my life, this man that I love, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, this is starting off better than I thought it was going to be. Woo! Okay. Girl did a 180. She tells Cole that he disrespected her, that he insulted her, that he single-handedly shattered her self-confidence. During the reunion, she says that he pushed her towards an eating disorder, that he commented on her weight, how much she was eating. I mean, the list just goes on. Cole was clearly blindsided, not only by the altar moment, but also at the reunion. I mean, poor guy, I felt like, was just ripped to shreds by all of the women there. And I feel like they were too hard on him.
Yeah, but he made a lot of comments during the season about her body and what she's eating. which are just like not cool. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of compared them to Deep D and Shake because because Shake also made a lot of messed up comments about Deep D throughout the season.
Yes.
So I do think Cole deserved to have a little bit of he deserved to have a little bit of backlash.
He certainly deserved a little bit of
this.
accountability.
He needed it.
Yes.
He needed it, but she
But
did
here's
go
my
really hard
thing.
at him. What's the thing?
Yeah. Here's my thing though, is I honestly feel like Cole and Zena did the exact same thing to each other. Cole's was just very obvious and Zenab's was very passive, right? Zena basically told Cole that the way that he lives is wrong. The way that he cooks is wrong. His sense of humor is wrong. He's too immature. He's too goofy. He said, in a passive way, she said, this, and this is all wrong about you. Which essentially is what she's saying Cole did to her. Although Cole was more, obvious about what he was saying. So while I agree that Cole should have never compared, he said wrong things, I don't know that I feel like what he did was any worse than what Zenab did to him.
Also, before you get into it, Kayla, like she literally said that she forgave him that day. Remember she said that? So now we're here a year and a half later. She didn't forgive him. She had so much time.
No.
She didn't forgive him.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start off piggybacking on that point. I think that wedding moment in the reunion as well, I think Zena is taking things out on Cole a little bit. And I think she's putting responsibility on him for some of her own insecurities. I think this is such a like tough subject, talking about like disordered eating or like body image. Because it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it Cole calling you a 9 and saying Colleen is a 10 and, you're not my usual type and I wouldn't date
Typically go for somebody named Lily.
Do you think
when
I married someone named Zenab, like her name is like a derogatory term.
That's so messed up.
I mean, he
honestly,
did so many. Yeah. So it's like, was it that like caused insecurity, or was it that it kind of just heightened it and brought it out? Because she also said things like, hey, I'm going to take my makeup off and I look like a different person. Like she kind of was already like showing signs of, and I'm not like obviously picking at her at that. I think anyone can relate to that. And I think that a lot of women kind of resonated with Zena because of that. But yeah, I think they both picked at each other. I think that Zenab was incredibly passive from the beginning. And I think that, even in the pods, I was like, these two, the fact that they chose each other, period, shows some lack of like, I don't know, foresight or like some kind of wisdom, because it's like
awareness.
Why are you, the fact that you guys chose each other is ridiculous. Like he's like 25, you're like 31. Like he obviously is kind of childish. You're obviously more like, I think they see things in each other, then they picked each other like in some kind of like toxic way that like, I don't know. I think that they were just like the worst match. But I think that
they just were not compatible whatsoever. That was very clear.
All clearly. And I think that the one thing I will say about the reunion when it comes to Cole is that at that very end, you could tell he really did feel bad. And about her saying, you made me feel these things. You made me insecure. Like he really did feel bad about that. And I think that, he needs to watch things that he say. Don't call someone bipolar. Don't, and I don't know. There's a lot that maybe wasn't shown and, that's the polarizing thing of it all. But I think that it definitely showed he's able to own up to things in a way, or just have some humility to be like, oh my gosh, I really am sorry. So hopefully they just kind of individually figure things out for themselves.
I just felt so sad. I felt like he was like a shell of a man at the end of that reunion. My heart was literally broken for him. He was like, I would never want to do this again if that's how I made somebody feel. Like, so I think the problem with me is like, right, we have Bartiz, who I feel like was, equally as bad as Cole, who was just like, like he's fine, but nobody's coming after him. But then we've got Cole, who's like bawling his eyes out, but we've got all 5 women hounding him, when you can tell like he really is like He really feels it. He is hurting. He is a good person to the core. Like, I just feel like we needed to allow maybe a little bit, like, we all make mistakes. We say stupid stuff. And yes, you're held accountable to that. But that doesn't mean you're a bad person. And on top of that, at one point, Nancy did say she hated him. Or she didn't say that outright, but he was like, Nancy, I don't get why you hate me. And Nancy said, because... and gave a reason. And so in turn, you just said you hate Cole, but you can't hate Cole. He's a good person. He just said some bad things. And we've got to Zach, you brought it up at the very beginning. Cutie Gate, Clementine Gate, Orange Gate, whatever the heck it was, Fruit Gate. Let's break that down really fast. The cuties. So basically, like, when talking about Zena was trying to defend herself or give an example of how Cole would tell her she shouldn't eat something or, making her feel bad. And so she gave an example of this cutie, how she wanted to eat 2 cuties, and it was at 2:30 p.m. And he made a comment about you shouldn't eat that or whatever, right? It was like, it became a whole deal. And even Vanessa was like, you did that to her? And Cole's like, that's not what happened. We have it, roll it, whatever. So then the producers roll Cutie Gate. And we see the whole scene, and a lot of people I was seeing on Twitter, it kind of made me laugh that everyone was like harping on the time because it wasn't 2:30, it was like 5:30. Their dinner was at 7:30. It was, so a lot of people were like, realistically, it's in 2 hours. But Cole says she gets to eat the cuties, and he's like, oh, you're gonna eat those? Like just don't ruin your appetite. We're gonna have a big supper, And she's like, oh, well, all I had was a banana, and he's like, all you had was a banana. Why? I offered you the poke bowl. So I think a lot of people were siding with Cole after that.
That scene was just so interesting for so many reasons, just because it was a deleted scene that Netflix made sure to put in at the end of the reunion episode. So it was just like a scene that they wanted there, and it was a scene to get everybody talking, and that's exactly what it did. The internet has been exploding. Yeah. I think my biggest takeaways was that Cole was trying to plan to see her family in England, and like he was trying to make an effort and show that he wants to care about like her family and like meet everybody and make it accountable for everybody. He was excited about it, and she wasn't. She was just like, it's gonna be so hard. And then like they talk about it, and then he's like, see, it's not gonna be that hard. We're going to England. And she's just like, these Coleisms. It was just the way she was like talking to him when he was excited.
But talking down to Cole.
Yeah, it just showed that she wasn't in it. I mean, no one's ever going to be enough for Zenib until she gets it together. I think that her standards are through the roof. They're ridiculous. I mean, Cole obviously wasn't good enough for her. He obviously had some shortcomings. He's a little younger. He's immature. Like, Zenib deserves a man that knows what he wants and has more confidence and knows how to put clothes in the hamper. So I think that, like you guys said, they were never meant to be together, but I think she probably was just checked out. And that's the thing about this show, is that they want to break up, but they're obligated to stay together and go to this wedding and then say no at the altar. Normally you would say no like a week before, but no, this show is designed to get a wedding together and say no at the altar and make it a dramatic moment. So I think that's why I want to give some of these contestants some grace, just because they clearly they're not able to break up with each other on their own time, and that is what is building extra resentment.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's a good point, Zach. And I think, my read on that scene is, for sure, the first thought I had was, oh, Zenib is so checked out. But then when it comes to breaking down the cutie gate of it all, I think sometimes it's a tough thing to try to judge whose fault or who's right or wrong. I don't think that's the point I think that's what they use the scene for. But I think, like, in retrospect to kind of like real world issues, when it comes to people who deal with body image or disordered eating, it, like, that's you look back received. Sometimes you'll have a memory where you'll look back on something that someone said, and it's when you're looking through that, or you're hearing it through that lens, that's what you hear, And so I think we have to really 100%. Have grace. We'd have to really have grace when it comes to that specific scene. In my opinion, I think, like, about the food and what he said, I don't think obviously it's not Cole's fault, but I don't think we should villainize Zenib or blaming him, because I think a lot of people that's a reality for some people. So I think it's a tough thing that Netflix. I think it's a really sticky kind of controversial thing that they put that in there, because that's such a touchy subject.
I do think the video vindicated Cole in the sense of, it's not just a he said, she said, it's actually allowing people to see what happened. And I think like what you said, Kayla, like, so what I took away from the video was neither of them are wrong and neither of them are right. But I feel like it at least allowed, Cole to have the full narrative told versus just Zenob's story, which was like, could be potentially really harming to him. So I do think it was good that they showed that. And then also, I mean, the producers just be wilding out, because this is the second thing that they've shown that's kind of not with the norm, even with Andrew's tears, which we haven't talked, I think we touched on it, but showing, him squirting the eye drops in his eyes, that was crazy.
I wish he showed up. They said they invited him and he declined. But if he even went, wouldn't it have been weird? Because then, like, there's the 5 couples and then just him to deal with.
I think they would have brought him in like how they do like on the Real Housewives reunions, where they'll bring somebody in for like, a segment and then kick them back out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like Shayna last year. It was like a tag on because she was like kind of still liked Shane and was kind of still trying. So Andrew was kind of fishing with Nancy. So if maybe there was anything brewing between the two of them currently or in the past like year, maybe they, he would have had more stake to be there, but clearly there's nothing there because he didn't even show up. But,
and speaking of Shayna, Zach, because you said nobody has said no before the altar, but Shayna said no to Kyle before they went to the altar. There have been at least one person each season that has said no before going to the altar. So I did think it was weird that everybody decided to go to the altar this season instead of saying no when they clearly knew it was a no.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I think Shayna really just like wasn't in it with Kyle, and they broke up like earlier on. I think it like with these couples, it was like almost like too late, but then they could have said no the night before, or if they wanted to. I don't really know how it all works behind the scenes, but it's crazy that they put a show together where they have like 5 weddings in one episode, runaway brides, family drama, and overall I think the season was decent, but I think season 2 was better. I think season 2 had way more entertaining characters, way more intriguing drama, and just like overall. And I think we were talking about this before we came on here, like which was the best season. And for me, I think season 2 is the most enjoyable to watch.
So my question is, do we think Love is Blind? My answer is no.
No.
Oh, that's the question. Do we think Love is blind? Didn't Nancy say something funny? She was like, love is blindsided or something. I'm like, you're trying to get love is blurry. It's not going to happen. Because love is blurry will forever. But I think that love is, I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept that they get to know each other through a wall without actually seeing each other. And then you sometimes get disappointed when you see someone or you're excited. I think love is blurry. That's my answer.
Yeah. You know what? I think love is blind depends on the person, for sure. But maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Well, it's a good question. Let us know in the comments.
Wrap it up on that. Right. It's a loaded question, you guys. Let us know in the comments and let us know what we had a lot of opinions. We had a lot of thoughts. We had a lot to talk about. So we want to know everything that you guys are thinking. So drop those down in the comment section below as well. But of course, before you do that, you got to give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ring that bell so you never miss any of our future videos. I'm your host, Blakely McHugh with Zachary Reality and Kayla Thompson. You can see our socials on the screen right now. Drop by, give us a follow, and we will see you next time, everybody. Bye.
See you later.